The next day, I ended up back at my father's, not by choice but by necessity. He was a very unhappy man and hard to be near. He'd just been laid off, and his dearest friend had been killed by cancer. That night, I was laying in bed trying to block out the world, my father stumbling around upstairs. I could hear his footsteps through the ceiling, sounding like an angry giant. When I heard the upstairs door open, "Hey, come up here for a second, I want to talk to you." I could tell by his tone that he was being weird, a slight slur in his speech telling me that he felt confident in his weirdness too. I had dreamed earlier that he was standing over me in my bed with a gun aimed at my head. I'd woken up before he had a chance to pull the trigger. I'd been having lots of strange dreams. Boredom does that. So when I reached the top of the stairs, I could see that the living room was a mess. Papers thrown everywhere, the couch seat cushions having fallen off of the couch. The glass in the coffee table had been shattered. I came in and sat down where I always sat, and there it lied. A Glock my dad had bought from a retired cop. It sat there between us like pieces to a board game. "Do you want to die?" my father asked, his eyes wide open, confusion riddling through him like the gears in a clock. "No," I calmly replied, "because I'll kill us both right here now." "I don't want to die, Dad." I rested my head on my fist and stared straight ahead. "You just say the word and I'll do it. I'll kill us both." "I don't want to die, Dad, neither do you," I said, somewhat agitated. Apparently he didn't like my tone. He began to pace the room. He wasn't saying anything, just pacing back and forth like a pendulum with the gun as his center of gravity. He looked at me with stark eyes where I could see miles of pain, a torture that I didn't understand nor could I understand, chewing away at his insides. After staring me down for what seemed like hours, he made his way down the hall to the bathroom and began to take a piss. I saw my window and quickly made good use of it. I grabbed my keys and ran outside, turned on my car and sped away before he could even get to the front door. I fully expected bullets to come flying through my back window. I pulled into the nearest parking lot, stopped the car, and began staring at the moon. I pounded on the steering wheel and let out a scream from my lungs and my stomach. Screaming at God, screaming at the moon, screaming into hell. I slept in my car that night. It was 10 below. The next morning I woke up feeling confused. I got out of my car and walked to my father's house. From the top of the hill I saw his truck was gone. I quickly made my way down the snowy hill and into the house. As fast as I could, I grabbed some clothes, some drugs, and my turtle. I made my way back up the white and glistening hill that stood between me and my car. Once inside the car, I piled the clothes in the passenger seat and wrapped my turtle up in them tightly. Started my car and drove towards the city. Nowhere to go, really, though anywhere would have been better than where I was, it seemed. Once I got downtown, I shut off my engine. Not much gas and no money to fill up the tank. I looked around. Christmas. Decorations were everywhere, and all the stores were closed. Usually this part of town would be filled with people, but not today. Today was as empty as an open field, as if no one had ever stepped foot there. So empty and quiet that it seemed I had the whole world to myself. I tilted back my seat and tucked my turtle into my armpit. In the wild, he'd have done buried himself 6 feet under and would have been enjoying a very nice long nap. He dug his claws into me and got comfortable, as did I. I took a few deep, relaxing breaths, watching each breath come out like big, puffy clouds of smoke. I pulled my coat tight around me and tried to go back to sleep.